Okay, so people have lots and lots of questions, and sometimes we don't cover a lot of the questions. So what we want to do now is just kind of take questions, and we'll repeat it so everyone can hear, and then we'll answer them, because maybe a question that you're thinking you might want to ask, they'll have a question.
What time is it?
2:12.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
Okay, your team of Belgians.
Stand up. Stand up.
Okay, when you're cultivating
Yes?
and you got your hands on the cultivator, how do you steer the team of horses? How do you steer and handle the cultivator?
Okay, so first off, I had a sulky plow, so I sat down. And when I'm sitting down, I have the reins in my hand. But if you watch the old movies, and that was huge, guys.
Oh,
when
yeah.
we first went up there, we'll just give you this nugget. When we first went up there, I was slamming Westerns like nobody's business.
We watched.
I was watching,
yeah.
and I wasn't watching, I didn't care about the story. I'm like, how did they do that? How did they do that? And I was finding all the old black and whites, the closest to that time period I could.
Everything.
And I was watching every single thing they did, and I was like, look at that thing, look at that thing, look at that. Can we get that? How did they do that? But you'll notice they actually have the reins over their shoulder, or they tie them in a knot, and they're over their neck, and then they're still working it. And most of your horses, when you get them trained in, they can operate off a whoa. See what I mean? I don't need to bother them all the time. And they're going to know where they're going. So my team would get going, and they would go. And then when I wanted them to slow down, whoa. And if I go, whoa, whoa, then they know to stop. I mean, it's crazy, but that's how it operates. So,
yeah,
question.
but watch your Westerns like Rawhide.
I was all over that
all
stuff.
of the Bonanzas, Little House on the Prairies, along with the old
Woo!
Westerns. They're
I'm
good.
telling you.
What?
I'm serious. And we have
Yeah.
these books, these Time Life books. They're way back in the day. Stacy's been dragging them around for 100 years. And they got the leather stuff on them. What was it? What are they
It
called?
was a Time Life series. I don't know if you can find them. They had everything like the Cowboys, and it just had
Yeah.
all the time from like the
49ers,
1800s.
the Sodbusters,
And it would go
all
through
that
over
stuff.
everything. But these really the old movies that we would watch
I
and the
watched them
shows,
like crazy.
you get ideas for the lanterns, how they put them here, how
Oh,
they
that's
did
another
this.
thing we missed. So we don't do
Yeah.
any outlets in our house. So we talk about dirty electricity and the effects that it has on you. And like, you guys don't be sleeping with your cell phones on your nightstand. You know, turn off everything. If you have a digital alarm clock next to your bed, get rid of that thing. Get a wind-up clock. You know, dirty electricity, you know, we did studies on that. She studied it. There's books about it. You can find out all the information you want. And so what we use is the oil lamps, you know, and we barely really use them because in the summertime it stays light out for a long time. In the wintertime we use them a little bit more. And then obviously if you're on a homestead, if you don't have a headlamp, you're not really
Yeah,
a
that is
homesteader.
probably one of, if you talk about the top 3 things that I have to have on the homestead.
headlamp.
A headlamp
Oh.
is just, that's the greatest invention because it really is amazing.
Leaves your hands free. You know, you look at whatever you want to see lit up.
Yeah, we have rechargeable ones,
Right.
and they're great.
Right.
They're
All
great.
right, back to the questions.
Question.
I diverse. All right, go ahead.
You touched on stacking your wood and how best to dry it.
Yep.
Can you explain that a little bit more?
Well, you have to kind of figure out, you know, you want to have south-facing piles, right? Because you want the sun drying them, and you want to have your predominant wind cycle so the air passes through them more, okay? So if you have more of your wind, like on our property is a north-south wind mostly, and then of course we have the south. So we want our wood facing south for the heat, but we also want to utilize the wind flow. So a lot of people will stack their wood maybe up against a building, or they'll put it east-west, and so they won't get good airflow, and then they're only getting the south sun on the side, so it just takes longer to dry out. You know, you just want to be as efficient as you can, especially like for us, because we want to use it as soon as we can, as soon as the moisture level gets down. Go ahead.
On your water storage,
Yes, sir?
are you using white tanks, black tanks? What are you doing to keep algae from growing in, especially on your potable?
That's a good question. I know he doesn't watch the channel. There's no problem.
He
It's
does.
no problem. It's no problem. But that's how I can tell. So what happens is we have the dark food grade totes. So actually if you get the dark, they're not food grade totes, but they're dark cisterns, you know, water cisterns. So actually you could put those outside, but then you're gonna have a problem with hot water, but it'll go through the ground, it might cool it off, you know, that's cool. So that's gonna keep your algae out of growing in there. But what I did was I put it inside the barn. So I built a band around the end of the barn, and then I brought in gravel, tamped it down, and then put the tanks on top of that. and then I built a sliding door there, so they have their own room at the end of our barn.
It's very dark.
And what I'm going to do this summer, because I know you're going to start watching our videos now, I'm going to foam in that room with spray foam so I can heat that thing with a match. Last year was the worst year that in the time we've had the tanks now 3 years, maybe four, three years. So we've had the tanks 3 years, and this last winter was the hardest to keep it.
Because we had like
They don't
zero.
freeze because there's a lot of mass, but it's the connecting pipes. So I was really fighting hard. I lost one little connecting pipe, was no big deal. I fixed it, but that was the hardest this year. So what I want to do now is get that room airtight. I keep a barrel stove in there, and then I was also having like those propane heaters that you put on top of a barbecue propane, and so I was running those too, man. And I was like, man, I don't know. So this was the worst year, and up to that point though, we hadn't had any real problem. So I'm thinking, man, what if it really gets cold? I want to be prepared. So now I'm going to have that room foamed in, and then I should be able to have
we
zero
put some.
problems.
Yeah, heat it up a little bit. It'll stay
Yeah,
warm.
Right.
Yeah, because we were doing with our tanks, because they're not in the ground or anything. If it would be like, I know I could get down in the teens, and they wouldn't freeze. You
Yeah,
could go for days, and it would be good in there. And then if you just put a little heat in there, but if it would get to zero and negative wind chills for many days, definitely this will definitely help.
Go ahead.
I've got a question about your ice house.
I like your hat.
I do too. Can you tell us a little more about your ice house and your?
Oh,
Root
we're making
cellar?
a root cellar. Sure.
Yeah, the ice house and the root cellar are big projects that will be coming up pretty soon, and I can't tell you anything about it because we want you to watch the videos. The Amish use a thick foam ice house. I think they're like 6 to 8, 12 inches thick of foam, and they basically build a room, and most of them keep them above ground, and they pack them full of ice in the winter out of their pond, and that lasts actually from year to year. Another way you can do a pioneer style is if you have your ice blocked and stacked, you can actually cover it with sawdust. Sawdust is great for the homestead. It is an insulator, and it also breaks down stuff. So like if you had a dead animal in the wintertime and you couldn't get it in the ground, you could actually bury the sawdust on top of it, bury it in there,
Yep.
and it'll actually eat it away, and then come spring, it'll be gone. So that's another way you can do the ice is you stack it and then you cover it with sawdust, and then you can go out and get your ice out of it as you need it, and then it'll stay for the whole time too, from winter to winter. But stay tuned on the
Well, you can
stuff.
explain. Yeah.
No, I don't want to know. It's cliffhanger. Go ahead. Yep. No, you don't turn your Humidor compost pile like you would a normal food type of compost. You just basically open up from the middle, make like a crater, put in the new buckets, scrape the old stuff back over the top, and then put straw all over the top, and no flies, no smell.
No, nothing.
Nothing.
No, it's amazing.
Yep. Go ahead.
Do you feed your chickens? Do you feed them food, or do you buy feed?
I-
Or do you have maggot box buckets?
We do all that stuff. I mean, go
And
ahead.
I make the feed. 5 minutes. Okay. 5 minutes.
15 minutes. We got 15 minutes.
So I make my feed in the summer months and spring when there's a lot going on. Our
We don't
chickens
use
go
feed at all,
everywhere.
right?
We basically in our food forest area that we've done with our raised beds and then the back to Eden, Doug made a huge fence that goes all the way
Because we
around.
have sheep too, and we want them around the house mowing
Yeah.
down the grass. So we basically have locked up our garden and open range all of our animals. But to your question, yeah, we buy feed from the feed store. She mixes a batch of feed together. We
Like
have a video
sunflower
about it
seeds and,
on
you know,
how to get
oats and
protein
things like
so they
that.
lay the most eggs.
Kelp.
Yeah, but in the summertime, we hardly give them nothing. They're really running around. It's basically a wintertime feed.